All right, y'all. I got kicked off. I don't know if it was an internet issue or what, but I'm back using my phone this time. And um, so just let me know in the comments if you can hear and see me okay. Sheesh. Um, Hold on. Let me just make sure that I'm showing up where I'm supposed to. Let me turn down my volume. Okay, swipe left. Okay. All right. So I see myself. So hopefully those of you who are on will jump back on shortly, and get back connected. So let me go back to what I was saying. So I was saying, so how did that show up for me? I said that 5782 was going to be a decade of declaration, and it was also the year of the house. So any attacks that you would have experienced would have been towards your household, right? And so I was sharing how that looked like for me was I got divorced, number one. Number two, my mother ended up with COVID, and she was on a ventilator. She was on life support. We didn't know if she was going to make it. Thankfully, she did. But that was another thing that happened in my household. I ended up, as a result of that, I ended up having to take care of my dad for 26 days straight by myself with no relief. Y'all know George had me in here fit to be tied, right? Another thing that happened in my household, the caregiver that we had in place for 6 years, I think, she up and quit with no notice, which is how I ended up having to take care of my dad for 26 days straight. And also, my mother got COVID from one of the new caregivers that we tried to get to replace the lady. So it had like a huge impact on our household. Let's see, what else would I put in terms of things that happened in my household? My father started, okay, you're back. My father started, has been beefing with me, lately because of him experiencing a loss of control over a lot of things that he used to have control over. So, and your girl, I, I can ignore sometimes, y'all, but sometimes George gets me on the right side. And so he gets told off, y'all. Y'all continue to pray for me, but that's been sometimes he gets the business. I'm not even gonna lie to y'all. I'm gonna put my own self on the altar for that. I had a huge fight with my brother, and this was like at my godmother's, shortly after my godmother's funeral. What else happened? I was supposed to move to West Palm Beach. I canceled that move because I was aligned with a company that was actually like not everything that I was trying to do to set up passive revenue. I was being met with resistance to the point that things just weren't. It just wasn't aligned. Um, and so and I ended up getting removed off of that company's team, which no, that obviously impacted my finances while going through a divorce. But I was actually okay, right? And I'm okay with all of these things. Actually, I'm just sharing with you, like, I said that it would be the year of the house, and that a lot of household things would be shaken. And that's exactly what occurred. Um, what else? I stopped speaking to one of my closest cousins. And there's a huge division in my family because of it. Like, now we're basically, my family for the moment is pretty divided, right? And then the last and most important, um, I basically created a Bible study last year for spiritual gangsters and ended up having to become one myself, had I known. Okay, I might have held off, but I guess I did it in obedience, but still, that's what I felt like after I made it. I was like, so let me find out I made this Bible study for myself, like not for nobody else, because I made so the next Bible study I make, even if we talking about, I don't know, even if we talking about the second coming, or I don't know, it's gonna be called Love and Wealth or something, because I make one called Spiritual Gangsters. I end up having to be a spiritual gangster myself. It was rough. It's been a rough 12 months. Because it sure made me sit down and be quiet. Okay, so yeah, so those are just a few of the things that happened me personally in my household, and I'm just sharing it with you in transparency to let you know, like, I'm not teaching you or talking to you from a place where I feel like I'm elevated, and the bombs that I drop is just for y'all. It is not for me. Like, I get caught in the crossfire too. Like, my household havoc was wreaked, right? In my household, and I was aware, right? And I knew that a lot of the times it could have been way worse had I not had the knowledge that these things were going to happen ahead of time. Callie said, and that's how, ain't that how it be? Sis, I was out here struggling. I'm like, nah, next study. You see, I didn't make no other ones after. I tried, but that, so I don't think my heart ready. I don't think my heart is ready, but I'm back, y'all. But I definitely am back. I did also discuss in last year's video, I discussed that 5782 was a year of Jubilee, and that it was a rest year. Right. And so I told all of you that this was a year as entrepreneurs for you to focus on passive income, not active, because it was a rest year, right? It was the best year ever if you didn't have your funnels set up to set them up, right? Because you would basically be in alignment with a year of rest, right? Now, if you decided to watch my video last year where I gave you all of that free game to let you know how to move in business, and you didn't do it, here's what I can tell you happened in business for you last year, right? Or business, work, whatever you want to call it. Here's what I know happened, and you can be either honest and let me know in the chat if I'm right or not, or you can, try to act like I'm not talking to you, but I am talking to you, and I'm talking to us both. But okay. So if you chose anytime during the last 12 months, if you chose to ignore those and not heed those warnings, I can tell you that you exerted massive effort and made less money. Or you made more money, but you basically still live the same, or less. Your quality of life has even decreased, even though the money is more, right? Or you wasted time and energy trying to force things to happen in your career and business, and you ended up exhausted and burnt out. Or my personal favorite, if you still didn't get the hint after experiencing the previous two things, you got forced to rest, right? So since you wouldn't or didn't do it on your own, situations occurred where you had no choice but to rest. You had to take the L, you had to chill, right? So I can tell you, regardless, who you are, if you basically went against the grain last year in the last 12 months, that's what resulted in your business. I hands down, I can guarantee, because I know God's word don't lie. So this is what happened. Kelly said, you got me with 1 and 3. Friend, I got myself with that. Okay. Like, massive effort for less money and being forced to rest. Okay, like literal duct tape or handcuffs I felt like was gonna be next, so I just decided, let me just go ahead and let me rest, Lord. Let me go ahead and rest. Now, many of the things that occurred in my household forced me, to lay my butt down, like I said, and rest. My capacity for done-for-you services work greatly diminished. I mean, obviously, you got your mom on life support, you going through a divorce, like, there's a lot of things happening. So my capacity for done-for-you work, which is active, right? Which is active income, greatly, greatly diminished, right? But again, shouldn't have been a surprise because I knew that this was a year of rest, and a year where my household was gonna experience some, some shaking, right? Now, I, with all of those things that happened, I just honestly, y'all, like, I didn't have the energy to launch a lot of courses or workshops that I had intended, because I just thought, like, oh, this was going to be the year I do all these funnels, blah, blah, blah. But I didn't have the capacity, I didn't have the energy after going through all of that stuff. And again, no surprise, because it should have been a year of rest, right? So, what did work? So things that did work was exactly what we discussed. So, existing clients giving referrals, which is passive, right? That's not me going out, marketing myself, touting myself, doing a whole bunch of promotions, a whole bunch of campaigns. A lot of the opportunities that I got, like, for example, with FIU and Bank of America or even Target and stuff like that, it was all referral. I didn't do anything to get those things. So it was passive, right? In that sense. Other things that worked was switching to a revenue share arrangement with a few clients made a huge difference too. Because instead of me saying, like, oh, okay, I do ads, I do copy, this is my fee, which is how I was handling business in the past, I started realizing when I'm doing these marketing reports for people every month, one of the things that I always provide is what the marketing contribution was to the bottom line as opposed to what the company overall made. So when I started seeing, like, man, I'm contributing 40, 50, 60, 70% sometimes of the revenue, we finna get in a revenue share arrangement, like, again. So that's a more passive way, because the work was going to be the same, whether I changed to that arrangement or not. But now is a manner of me being able to have a share in what happens. So that it was a way of me increasing passive income in that sense, right? And so also, I also started doing things like I still do one-off stuff. But a lot of the things that I was doing didn't require, like, some big, long, extensive 1 year, 2 year, retainer anymore. A lot of times it was, let me do a call with you, look over your offer, tell you what tweaks you need to make to the offer, and then I'm off the phone. Like, you can either do it with me or not. But, so a lot of things that I was doing was in line with that. Then with my clients themselves, right? One of the things that I started doing was basically trying to help them set up workshop and webinar funnels. So one of my clients is on track to hit 7 figures this year, and a bulk of how that is happening is because she actually started building with me workshop and webinar type funnels and structures in her business instead of focusing so heavily on the e-commerce side of her business, right? So she was in alignment with what was going on in terms of preparing herself for it to be a year of rest. Other areas that I decided to go passive. This was like a first in a very long time, but I decided to go passive in terms of love and relationships, right? So one of the things that I noticed about myself was that because I'm an entrepreneur, and that requires a level of leadership. I'm very much an alpha female, and so I think with alpha females and with entrepreneurship, we have a tendency to be very masculine because that's how we make money, right? We are very masculine in how we do things. If a problem needs to be done, we're here, like, let's solve it, let's go, let's make this money. Like, I wasn't the person who was going through a divorce, beat down, crying, like, oh, what am I supposed to do? Listen, I was still showing up to work. I was still showing. So we are, but because of that, I had to take a look inside of myself and say, like, no, if I need to be passive in terms of love too. Like, I need to learn submission, right? I need to learn better submission. So what did I do for myself? I specifically chose a man to work with in terms of a coach, in terms of, relationships, helping me heal past traumas and stuff. This is the first time in my life like I ever picked a dude, picked a man to be able to put myself in a position where, like, he has the ability to tell me what to do. Like, y'all, that was woo, okay, like, that was huge. So it's basically like I had to put myself in a passive position in terms of, not being in the driver's side and control, all the time. And it's been great, right? It's been great. So that was one area where I had to kind of, make myself a little passive, put myself in a submission role. Other things that I did to go passive in terms of my love life, I turned off all online dating profiles that I was on, because even though it's online, and even though I would never have a conversation with someone who didn't like me first, the energy behind it, I just felt like it was me, like, having to chase, having to put myself to be seen. Like, that didn't feel passive to me anymore. And so I removed it. So Callie said, yeah, you needed that energy shift. Yeah, so I took myself off of everything, which at the time made no logical sense, because I was like, but I don't even I'm not with nobody. So how much? And I don't go nowhere. And I don't hardly like people. So, like, how am I supposed to meet people? But, I felt like this is what I was being led to do. I wanted to be more passive, so I turned it off. And then what I did was on, I think it was like June 24th, June 25th, around there, I actually sat down and wrote a list of everything that I was looking for in a man. And I'm like, okay, Lord, I'm off these dating profiles. You're going to have to figure it out. The how is not my job. That's not my business. You're going to have to figure it out. And within 24 hours later, I ended up meeting someone that I'm, like, really into, right? So, and the manner in which he shows up, I'm completely passive in that. Like, I'm noticing, like, okay, for the first time ever, and sometimes I fall off, y'all, but for the first time ever, like, he's planning the dates. He's controlling, like, when we see each other. He's, like, I've always been the type of person, because my human design is a projector. I've always been the type of person who has to be, like, pursued. So that I don't want to tell y'all, like, I'm out here chasing men, because that's a never, and never ever, right? But definitely in relationships, like, this is one of the first times where I'm trying my best, like, to show up more submissive and more passive, right? Now, sometimes, I'm sure I'm probably work his last nerve, but I'm trying my best, y'all. Y'all continue to pray, okay? I'm trying my best, but those are instances where, when I showed up passive, I reaped great results. So, and then last but not least, I noticed that last year, because of the theme of the year, of it being a decade of declaration, and it being the year of the house and a year of rest, whenever my clients chilled out and went with the flow, we did well, right? Whenever we tried to go out guns blazing, let's go, let's go, let's go, let's go, let's try to force, let's launch, let's do that, everything just fell apart, is what I noticed. And so, if that was your experience, I share all of that, not just because I want y'all to know on my business, right? I shared all of that to say, if that was your experience, if a lot of the things that I'm sharing with you are things that you experienced in the last 12 months, like, there's a lot of similarities to it, well, now you know why. Because that's basically what the dealio was for last year. So now, drum roll, So Callie said, and even us alphas, we want that time and space to rest. Yes, we need it, right? We need it because as alpha females, sometimes we doing too much, but we're doing too much. And then we get annoyed with beta males. But then when we get the alpha males, then we want to control everything. That's very tiring, y'all. It's very tiring. Ooh. Anyway, so now for September 2022, which is what I'm here today. So we're going to talk about the next 12-month cycle, what you can get ready for. So we are still in a decade of declaration because it is still part of this 80s decade. But the year changed today to 5783. Okay, so 5783 is part of the decade of declaration, but the 3 is synonymous with provision. Okay, so some of you, this is your cue to shout, jump, run. Okay, so 3 is a number of unity. 3 is a number of stability. 3 is a number of balance. So examples: the Holy Trinity, water, right? Water is ice, is solid, liquid, gas. Us as human beings, we are composed of 3 things. We have a body, a soul, and a spirit, right? So 3 is a number of balance. It is a number of stability. 3 in Hebrew is called Gimel, okay? And if you look up the word Gimel, Gimel symbolizes provision. So this is a year of provision. Can somebody give me a shout in the chat? Hallelujah, right? This is a year of provision. And so if you look up what the word Gimel means, the definition of Gimel is it is to nourish, to wean, a camel, or a bridge. I don't know. When I looked up the definition, I'm like, that's real random. Like, what? A camel? How you nourish and a camel? But that's what Gamel, when you see the Hebrew word Gamel, it is defined as to nourish, to wean, a camel, or a bridge, right? Now, if you look up what the word nourish means, the word nourish in the dictionary says to provide with food or other substances necessary for growth, health, and good condition, right? And then to wean, the definition of weaning is to accustom someone to managing without something on which they have become overly dependent or of which they have become excessively fond. Some of us need to get weaned off of some stuff. This gonna be the year it's gonna happen too. Okay. And so some of us, like I said, we got some things that we need to be weaned off of because we have grown overly dependent on those things or ourselves, and not so much dependent on God anymore. If that's you, my friend, you getting weaned. Okay, in the next 12 months. But not to despair, don't cry, don't be sad. We have to get weaned off of things. So like when I was a nurse, right, a lot of times when people are on life support or a ventilator, they call and they want to train them to be able to breathe on their own again. They call that like weaning you off the vent, right? And so they just don't, come in, cut the life support off, turn it off. Like there's a process for you to get weaned off of it to where you are put in a position to be able to breathe on your own again, right? So when you are weaned off of something, Kelly said the year already started already. Listen. Okay, so when you are weaned off of something, the purpose of getting weaned off of something is for to put you in a better situation, right? Weaning is you losing something because you're getting something better, right? We got weaned off of our mom's breasts, those of us who got breastfed, but that was so that we could enjoy things like, bacon and rice and other food. But we had to get weaned off of that first before we could really enjoy those things and have a taste for them. We get weaned off of foods, right? We get weaned off of drugs. We get weaned off of unhealthy relationships. You get weaned off of abuse. Like, there are so many things that you have to, wean yourself off of, but it's for the purpose of getting something better on the other side. So if you do happen to experience some things, getting weaned off of some things in the next 12 months, remember, it's because it's to clear the room for something better, right? So provision, right? You're getting weaned off of things in order to be given the nourishment, the provision that this year is called for. So provision is defined in the dictionary. It is the action of providing or supplying something for use. Amen. All right. Because a lot of times people think provision just means, oh, I'm going to get the money, I'm going to get the bag, I'm going to get the girl, I'm going to get the dude, I'm going to get the this, I'm going to get the that. But it's for you to use it, right? If you don't have a use, you won't get the provision. Okay, friend? Like, you just won't. It is also the other sentence here in the definition. It says to supply with food, drink, resources, or equipment, especially for a journey. Where are you going? Like, this is not, you're not going to get these resources or the provision that you're looking for if there's no journey to take them on. So for those of us, and I'm pulling my own edges with this. So for those of us who think we can not show up and not be consistent and not go someplace, how sway? What we going to use the provision for? So we need to figure that out. Kelly said a word. This is a word. Use it. I'm trying to say. She said this dropped this in her Hashanah. Amen. So now here's the good news, right? I feel like I gotta reel y'all back in. So here's the good news. For some of us, and myself included, for some of us, in order for us to get this provision, this means that this is going to be a year for us specifically of divine restitution and divine recovery, right? So think of it in terms of a bank account, right? If my bank account is in the negative, let's say my bank account is in the negative $1,000 and Callie wants to give me $500. Okay, if she does and she deposits it in my bank account, it doesn't really do much for me because she just took me to a little less negative, right? So in order for me to really experience the provision of the $500 gift, I can't be in overdraft, right? So there is a lot of us in the last few years who have lost a lot of things, and so in order for us to even be able to receive the provision, we got to get put back at zero balance, which means we're going to have to get some divine restitution, some divine recovery over things that got lost, things that got stolen from us, things that got taken from us. They will have to be restituted and recovered in order for us to even be at the equilibrium to get the provision. Does that make sense? So for many of us who have lost a lot of things, this will be a year of divine restitution and divine recovery for us in order to even be able to get the provision, right? Because we gotta be level. So we will get back a lot of the things that we lost, probably, and more so because we're gonna get back the things we lost with provision on top of it, right? So I guess like a double portion, or however the super spiritual folks say. But that is something that you can look forward to. If Callie says, I received that restitution and restoration. Exactly. So thinking back in terms of the Bible, right? God is a God of provision. God provided for Adam before Adam showed up, right? Like Job. Exactly, Fiona. So when before he made Adam, God provided for him, right? Before he made Eve, he provided for her. Before he even made the animals and the plants, he provided for them, right? He didn't make the animals and then was like, oh shoot, let me go make the ocean because they might be thirsty. Like, he's not haphazard. Like, the things were already in place before they showed up, right? So the provision is there. It's already there. It's just a matter of us receiving it and taking it, right? And so that is one thing about God. He does not create things that he cannot take care of. He's not a deadbeat, right? He ain't like us, right? Like, he's not a deadbeat. He doesn't create things that he can't provide for, period, right? And so keep that in mind this year. When you are facing anything that's going on, if you're anxious about business revenue, if you're anxious about a job, you're anxious about revenue, you have to remember, if he created it or he puts you in the midst of it, he will provide for you. He is not a deadbeat, right? And Kelly put, and we won't even have to go to the enemy's camp to get it. It'll be dropped on us right where we are. Amen and amen. Exactly, right? So now, one of the other words that I said in Gimel was camel, right? So camels in the Bible, surprisingly, what do camels symbolize in the Bible? Let's see let me see who has the answer. Because I remember when I was giving you the definition, I was like, to nourish, to wean, a camel, or a bridge. What? Like, a camel in the Bible symbolizes, ding, 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 provision. That's what camels symbolize, right? So remember that in the Bible, the 3 magi that came to visit Jesus, what did they come on? Camels. What did they bring? Provision, right? The Queen of Sheba, when she went to go see Solomon, she came with a whole caravan full of camels. And what did she bring? Provision, right? Other times that camels were important in the Bible. So if you know the story of Isaac and Rebecca, right? So that's the parents of Esau and Jacob. So when Abraham sent his servant to go find a wife for Isaac, he came on what? A camel. Like, and he was given what? Provision. He was giving Rebecca a husband, right? So and so what he did, he tested her, right? He was like, anybody who offers him something to drink and offers to water give the camels water, that's who he would know is Isaac's wife, right? So imagine, just like, with us, like, God can give you provision, he can send it, but he also wants to see if you're prepared to handle it, right? So Rebecca passed the camel test, right? She gave water to the servant, and then she also offered to water the camel. That is significant. Now that I understand that camel symbolize provision, right? We can understand, like, okay, God might be bringing the provision to you, but are you prepared for the gift that you're asking for? Are you equipped? Are you going to go back and give honor to where you need to, right? So just as a side note and a side for camels just in general, right? And this was part, like, when I did this part, when I was studying them, I was like, oh man. Like, camels are trained to fast, y'all. I feel like I could just shut the camera right now. Camels are trained to fast in order to reach a destination. I don't know who this is for, but some of us, we might have to turn down our plate this year in order to reach the destination that we're trying to get to, right? So camels are trained to fast in order to reach a destination. They can survive for long periods without food or drink, chiefly by using up the fat reserves in their humps, is what I found out. So exactly, they got them humps of water. So some of us, maybe not all, but some of us are going to need to get serious about turning down our plates in order to reach our destinations too, right? So that we're not, slow down. We're going to have to plug into some reserves, okay, of our own. And so bottom line, what exactly will God be providing, right? Because I said this is a year of provision. So what exactly will God be providing? So because this is a year of divine restitution and divine recovery, retribution, or whatever, basically that means whatever you are giving out, you can expect that that's what you're going to receive. Okay. Callie says she got a couple of fatty humps on her. Listen, me too, friend. Me too. But you are so what when we look at what will God be for providing, you can, depending on how you look at this can be a year where you receive a lot of rewards, or it could be a year where you reap a lot of consequences, right? Divine retribution works, both ways. So the key is you need to remember that you are blessed in order to be a blessing, right? And you can expect to receive based on what you give. So what has already been provided for the journey? So we talked about when God made Adam, the provision was already there when Adam showed up. There are things that we've already been provided with that we need to, that before we go and take our journey. So one of the things that we have already been provided with is the armor of God. And so in Ephesians 6:10-18, it says, finally be strong in the Lord and in his mighty power. Put on the full armor of God so that you can take your stand against the devil's schemes. For our struggle is not against flesh and blood, but against rulers, against authorities, against the powers of this dark world, and against the spiritual forces of evil in the heavenly realms. Therefore, put on the full armor of God so that when the day of evil comes, you may be able to stand your ground. And after you have done everything, to stand. Stand firm then, with the belt of truth buckled around your waist, the breastplate of righteousness in place. Stand with your feet fitted with the readiness that comes with the gospel of peace. In addition to all this, take up the shield of faith with which you can extinguish all the flaming arrows of the evil one. Take the helmet of salvation and the sword of the Spirit, which is the word of God, and pray in the Spirit on all occasions with all kinds of prayers and requests. With this in mind, be alert, and always keep on praying for all the Lord's people. So that's something that we've already been provided with, but some of us are not necessarily putting our armor on, right? So that's going to be important for you to use in the next 12 months and really, all your life. Other things, so in terms of being blessed in order to be a blessing, a lot of times people always think of the basic stuff like time, energy, money, but there are other things that you can give that you can bless other people with in order to be blessed with it back. And those would be the fruits of the Spirit, right? So the fruits of the Spirit, according to Galatians 5:22-23, are love, joy, peace, patience, kindness, generosity, faithfulness, gentleness, and self-control. Now, this is worth the price of admission right here. As an entrepreneur, over the next 12 months, your focus needs to be to create products, services, or strategies, systems, right, in your business that cause your clients to experience increases in those types of spiritual fruit. That's the strategy, okay? For the next 12 months, that's the strategy. That's the winning strategy right there, okay? So now you might be saying to yourself, well, how am I supposed to do that? It doesn't matter what type of entrepreneur you are. There's some way that you can cause the people who do business with you to experience an increase in their spiritual gifts as a result of working with you. Got to be, right? You could be a hairdresser. You could be a nail tech. I don't know about y'all, but when I get my nails done and they look nice, I experience joy, right? So maybe if I was a hairdresser or a nail tech, my focus over the next 12 months would be, how can I make my clients feel more joy when they come and get their hair done or come and get their nails done? Maybe your business deals with deliveries, right? So maybe people are dependent on you to deliver something, right? So if that's the area of business that you're in, well, when you show up on time, right? Your clients experience more peace, right? Because they're not worried about, well, where is, dude, he's supposed to be here. Where is she? She's supposed to, where's my food? Where's my this? Where's my whatever? They experience more peace when you show up with greater professionalism and you're on time, right? So that's just an example. Or maybe in the same example of, if your business is in the business of delivering things to people, well, maybe showing up more patient, right? Being more kind, being more patient and kind to the people that interact with your business, giving better customer service than what you're already doing, right? In the process of making those deliveries, and you will see a increase in revenue, right? That's what will happen. And you will also experience an increase in the fruits of the spirit for yourself, right? Another example, let's say you're a consultant or a coach, right? So that means you're giving people strategies literally to help increase their health, wealth, and relationships in some manner, right? If you're working as a consultant, a coach, or a teacher, that is what you do. Like, you are giving people strategies to increase their health, wealth, and relationships in some way. And so for you, maybe it's creating things, systems, offers, strategies, putting things in place where they experience more love, more generosity, more, and maybe if like, for example, what I do with marketing, helping people have more money, it helps them achieve more peace. Let's be honest. When the money's right, we sleep great, right? Right. So these are all things that, as entrepreneurs or as faith-based entrepreneurs or leaders or whatever, these are the things that's the real funnels right here. Like, these are the things that you need to be connected to. Those should be the things that are at the forefront of what you create and what you launch and what you do in the next 12 months as an entrepreneur. And so my pastor has a expression that he said one time, I think it was like last year. He might have said it a few times, but it really resonated with me. And he says, when the ministry dries up, so does the money, right? And I know I've shared this a few times on live streams before. And when he said it to me the first time, I was like, and it has been true to reason. Like, when I was showing up less, a lot of people didn't understand, like, oh, well, she's doing, digital disciples, she's doing these Bible studies, but yet you're telling me she does Facebook ads and emails and copywriting. And I know what I'm doing it here for. Like, if nobody showed up for it live, I was doing it for the ministry portion of my business, because I know that when the ministry dries up, so does the money, right? So it didn't matter to me whether it's 1,000 people or 2 people. You know what I mean? I'm being obedient and I'm doing what I'm supposed to do. But not everyone has a quote unquote ministry, like, teaching Bible studies or whatever. But whatever you're doing for work as an entrepreneur, whatever you're doing to gain revenue, that is your ministry. Hello, somebody. Hello. Okay, so when you're minister, and so what happens is, when you started your business, I don't care what the business is. When you started your business, there was a ministry aspect to it. Yes, you wanted to make more money, but there was a reason you wanted to make more money. Maybe that reason was you wanted to be able to do more for your family. You wanted to do more for your loved ones. You wanted to spend more time with your kids. For myself, there's absolutely no way I could have went through the year that I just went through and be able to provide care for my parents without my business. It would have never happened. So that's of the ministry portion. That's another ministry portion of my business, right? And so a lot of us over time, we got more focused on the revenue than the actual service portion of the business. And so this is why we noticed that we were it's starting to become a lot more frustrating. We don't maybe have the same joy and passion that we had when we first started. And that's why, because the service part, the ministry part of the business has dried up, and so has the money, right? And so I put here, many of us have gotten more focused on our revenue goals than we are on the transformation that we are providing to our audience. Whoo, Jesus, my God, my. Or the solutions for our families. So initially, many of us, I'm willing to venture all of us, started our business because we were really passionate about a transformation that we wanted people to in our audience to experience, or we were very passionate about a solution that we wanted to be able to provide our families. Somehow, some way, we got lost in the shuffle. The ministry done dried up. The money dried up too. Okay. And that's why the revenue has dried up. So that's going to be the work that you have to do, right? I just finished sitting here talking, sharing all this stuff with you, but this is the work that you need to do. Like when you come off of this video, when you come off of this live stream, that's the work that you need to do. You need to spend some time with God, and ask him for the strategy of what that looks like for your business, for you to get that back. Because basically, as you can see, we did well, but we can always do better, right? So in Deuteronomy 28, there is a lot of, that can be your homework too. Read Deuteronomy 28. But in Deuteronomy 28, there's a lot of blessings that God promises, his people. And so this is a year of divine restitution, a year of divine recovery. So that means any of those blessings are open game, right? So, being blessed in the city, blessed in the country, the blessing on your barns. This verse 8, Deuteronomy verse 8, 28. The Lord will send a blessing on your barns and on everything you put your hand to. The Lord your God will bless you in the land he is giving you, right? So read Deuteronomy 28, because on the flip side, it's if you're not obedient, it's okay. But those are all blessings that you can tap into. They were promised, right? Matthew 10:8 talks about healing the sick, raising the dead, cleaning those with leprosy, and driving out demons. Freely you have received, freely give. So I use that verse to talk about, not everybody is a deliverance minister, but helping people deal with the spirit of anger, deal with the spirit of poverty, help people, break out of scarcity mindset. All of those are demons you can drive out, through your business. Freely you've received, freely give, right? Knowing that the transformation when you get back tapped into the transformation, the revenue shows up in spades, like it has to, right? And then lastly, to wrap up, in 2 Corinthians 9 verses 6 and 7, it says, "But this I say, he who sows sparingly shall also reap sparingly, and he who sows bountifully shall also reap bountifully. Every man according as he has purposed in his heart, so let him give, not grudgingly or out of necessity, for God loves a cheerful giver." Right? So, whether you're, an entrepreneur or not, whether, is an alpha female, you are in leadership of some capacity, right? And so this is, when the giving slows down, right? So does the reaping. And I'm not saying for you to do things with the expectation like, okay, I'm giving this, I got to get it back. Like, no, really do it out of being cheerful and wanting to do so, right? A lot of us, our businesses, there are people who are not even in our faith who understand this concept, right? There are people that, like, for example, I'm not going to say the name of the artist, but I've noticed that there's a particular artist that Christians get up in arms about anytime this particular couple does anything, right? And at the end of the day, they're tapped in to the spiritual concept of giving and receiving, right? They do so much philanthropy, so much activism. I mean, And the peanut gallery that's talking about them, criticizing them of being a witch and being demonic and blah 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 blah. What are you doing? What are you giving? Like what activism are you showing up for your community? Like, you're not. So here they are reaping, right, the results of these things because they understand these spiritual laws and concepts and they're out doing it, whether they align with your faith or not. Those things still apply. And what are you doing other than sowing seeds of criticism and judgment, which in the end will come back on you? You know what I'm saying? So Fiona said, absolutely, a stewardship is a business principle. Regardless of faith, God is faithful to his word. Exactly. And that's the reason why a lot of people who are not necessarily Christian, but because God knows that he can use their business as a channel to help other people while you sitting here talking and, judging, the flow is open, right? When is the last time in your business, like, you actually did anything that was helping, like, for charity? Or some of you, you don't tithe, you don't give offering, like, you know what I mean? Open those channels. This is a year of divine restitution, a year of divine recovery, right? So whatever you've lost, sometimes things that we lose is not necessarily, sometimes it's us, consequences of us being stingy, right? Open your hands and give, period. So that's it. That's all I had. So just to recap, like, the last few things. So remember, number one, we are in a decade of declaration. This is a year of divine recovery, and divine retribution is a year of provision. Maybe get you a little picture of a camel for your wallpaper or something on your phone. I don't know. To remind you. Remember that God blesses you to bless others. The fruit that you give is what you will receive. So whatever you are lacking, give it to God and to yourself first. So quick caveat. So, like, sometimes I'll get mad at people for things, and then I'm like, I wonder if, God is mad with me for this particular thing, right? Give it, so the things that you're lacking, give them to God and to yourself first, and you will see your results change. Lastly, create products, systems, and strategies that increase your client's ability to receive any of the spiritual fruits: love, joy, peace, patience, kindness, generosity, faithfulness, gentleness, and self-control. Be able to articulate how what you offer, or even if you're not an entrepreneur, you just, a leader, right? Be able to articulate what you offer, or how what you desire to see happen, how does that help you, your loved ones, or your clients achieve an increase in their spiritual fruit? How does that happen? If you can't really articulate it, then, sis, I need you to come up with a better plan. Okay? And lastly, Yom Kippur, which is the next big Hebrew holiday, is the Day of Atonement. That's sunset October 4th to sunset October 5th. So I would say have it ready, right? That's one of the reasons why sometimes people see with Zodiac, the Libras are characterized by the scale, and that's because our season falls during Atonement, Yom Kippur, where you're supposed to balance, like, how did I do? Review yourself for the year, because Rosh Hashanah and Yom Kippur happen during this time. Review yourself. How did I do overall, and make the necessary adjustments. Do the balance and do what you need to do. And really just get clarity on what your next steps are. So that's it. Does anybody have any questions, comments, concerns? I'm done. Whew, that was a lot. Had a lot to share. I didn't think I had that much to say. So, okay. Callie said this was awesome, per usual. Indira, thank you for sharing these words, sis. You are so welcome. I love you. All right, y'all. If you are watching the replay and you weren't on live, feel free to let me know if you have any questions or comments or concerns here too, and I will come back and answer them. And I will see y'all soon. Bye. Oh, Fiona said, why are you so cute? I don't know. God made me this way. Bye. See y'all later.